Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 5 stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. Make sure to drop a like on this video, and if you're on Spotify, hit that follow button and let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Dungeons and Data. I guess you like paperwork. So, background, I work in US Customs Compliance, which, due to the current administration, is annoyingly unstable. Tariffs are being changed left and right, as well as the definitions of what products count as what kind of products, or materials being classified as specific exemptions. It's a mess. However, there's this thing called duty drawback that ended up being a big deal at my company. To really water it down, if Company A imports products to the US, but then immediately ships it to, say, Canada, to their franchise stores, Company B, then technically Company A was simply a stop en route and not the ultimate receiver. Company B pays taxes, called duty, on the product, but because Company A also paid taxes, Company A is due a refund for the duty paid, hence duty drawback. So after months of chasing down this information, going back 5 years, learning we had holes in the info, trying to patch that up, trying to figure out the math, making it accurate, finding errors, etc., up to 16-hour days because someone promised we could get this done in 2 months when we needed 5, and weekends torpedoed by work calls, we finally submitted the application. And it worked. We got a great return. But because we missed the deadline by a day and it was a rocky process, my boss was let go over poor performance and missed opportunities. Never mind the fact that this project was his idea and he was the one who got it rolling in the first place. And then the higher-ups decided that they wanted records of everything covered. Not digital though, that's not official enough. Printed in binders with official letterhead, sealed and signed if you would. Well, my boss's superior, who is covering his desk, came to us livid at the extra work we had to do, and said, they want paperwork? They get paperwork. Find the biggest binders you can find and put everything on hold until they get what they want. And just to make sure they see everything, print it single-sided. So far, we have about 3,600 printed pages, hole punched by yours truly, stuffed into 6 binders. And that got us through June of year 1 of 5. The binder pile is 3 feet tall already, and I get to do more of that when I get back to work. Compared to what I've been through recently, this is practically a vacation. And today, I finally got the response. When I came into work, all 6 binders were missing, and I came to find out my new boss had taken them to the higher-ups without us. She apparently marched right over to the executive's office and dropped all 6 binders on the desk without a word. This is paraphrasing, but this is what she relayed to us afterwards. What is this? The records you asked for. Ah, good. Now, the first 6 months. The what? Of the first year of 5. My boss then described in absolute glee how the executive sat there sweating as she continued to explain how she was glad that we could get such important work done in the middle of the tariff changes and the policy updates, and she was so happy the executive was willing to store all the records. Which prompted the executive to ask why they were being stored in his office. Well, that's when he was reminded that, due to digital supremacy, our off-site storage for file retention had been drastically reduced last year. He asked for the rest of the files in PDF. We couldn't stop laughing quietly on the way back to our desks. Vacation over, I guess. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Schneeflock667. It says, it's somewhat disappointing that you did not print out everything before going up. OP responded and said, I wanted to and we had the binders ready, but I think a 3 feet tall tower of paper and plastic still got the point across. Geez, I can't even imagine how heavy that was. I only lifted one at a time. Another commenter down below called Might342 quoted OP when they said up to 16-hour days, and they said, don't do this, your lack of work-life balance and the effects on both mental and physical health are not worth it. Do your job in a reasonable amount of time, and if you don't make it, you don't make it. their lack of planning doesn't make an emergency on your part. I bet they will look at how fast you did this and come to expect that as normal moving forward. Expect more unreasonable timelines for deliverables in the future. OP, this is completely true. I do hope, number one, that you're not salaried and you're hourly, and they were paying overtime for all those extra hours that you put in, because 16 hours a day is absolutely unreasonable, and there's no way you should be doing that. I sincerely hope you were fairly compensated for those hours, although I have a sinking suspicion that you probably weren't. This story comes to us from Infinite Salary 5861. Sorry, sir, you can't enter your building. A few years ago, I worked in armed security at a hospital. The Greater Health System owned 3 large hospitals, each with a 24-hour trauma center. It had a couple smaller county hospitals and dozens of clinics scattered across 3 states. I worked at one of the bigger hospitals in a bad part of town. There were legitimate security threats on a daily basis here. One day, I was told to stand at the main entrance and keep staff out. Huh? Apparently, some middle management person wrote a new policy that staff members are to enter and exit the building through the west entrance only. The main entrance was to be used by patients and guests, and they didn't want employees cluttering the main entrance, because, God forbid, people see medical staff upon entering a hospital. My task was to stand at the door and tell nurses, doctors, cafeteria staff, facilities, janitors, etc. to use the west entrance. Anyone who refused had their name written down and would be reprimanded later. Now, I had other crap to worry about, like EDPs fighting people in the ER, or people running onto the helipad and taking a selfie with the life flight patient, or dudes on PCP yelling at the wheelchairs, or the old woman with dementia who wandered off and can't find her room. You know, actual security problems. The main entrance posting was a waste of my time, and it dragged on for several days, until one day, a man wearing a suit leading a gaggle of important people, all in business attire. The ringleader had an employee ID badge and was speaking enthusiastically to the group. They were heading straight for the main entrance. Sorry folks, gotta use the west entrance. What? Hospital policy, all employees must use the west entrance. We're going to use this entrance, as he points to the door. Okay, but I'll need to take your names down. Your supervisor will be informed. The ringleader stares at me like I'm the biggest idiot alive and holds his ID badge in front of my face for an uncomfortably long time. I took his name down and every single member of his gaggle with painful slowness. I should add, they were all very polite, despite my obvious lack of F's to give. Shortly after, the security supervisor arrives. How's it going? Not bad, I have a dozen or so names, and I show him the list. Is that? He points to the ringleader's name. I don't know, his badge said Chief Something Officer. He looked important. Chief Executive Officer? Yeah, I think that was it. Supervisor quickly walked away. It turns out the CEO of the health system was bringing a group of potential investors, the aforementioned gaggle, for a tour of the place. He was never informed of the main entrance policy change and was greatly embarrassed to be stopped at the entrance of his own hospital by some rent-a-cop. Suddenly, as if by magic, staff could use the main entrance again, and I could return to actual security work. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called J Demick. It says, the flip side of you not stopping the CEO is you get fired for not enforcing policy. So, good job. Does anybody else think that if the CEO was bringing investors to the hospital and the investors saw just how good the security was at that front door, it would actually be a plus and a good thing? Might make them even want to invest in that hospital because they're taking security seriously. I know the guy at the front door, OP, had no idea who the CEO was, and like the commenter said, if they let the CEO and that big group of people right in, then they could have been fired by their boss. So I think it was a win-win situation, really. This story comes to us from I Don't Want to Sign In. Just something to make it better. I used to be the systems, admin, engineer, everything at a company of 300 people. Most of them were remote salespeople with laptops, and most of the salespeople had unpaid interns in this training program that, to me, seemed like hell. The interns were provisioned with any computer that I could cobble together. Part of the program was getting the commissions enough to earn an office and a computer. Seems stupid to me, but not my policies. These things were mid-grade Dell workstations and had long surpassed their useful cycle. The president, the co-owner, the VP, HR, and my leadership will not allow new equipment allocation to the interns under any circumstances. Not even $10 keyboards that come with new computers. It has to be decommed from an employee or sales rep to get into the hands of the interns. Well, another quirk about this company is that your service priority was determined by your performance in sales, which meant that mentors would advocate for their interns, and there was constant squabbling over who got less crappy equipment, and nearly every sales rep was a self-important jackbutt. One rep was having a particularly good year, and one of his interns had one of the better crap boxes, but complained about it constantly. I already pool RAM and swap processors whenever possible, so this rep, we'll call him John, calls me into his office every week or so to disparage me because I'm the one responsible for his intern being held back. Note that the reps are allowed to pay for gear for interns if they want to pay for it, but they never do. Eventually, the company VP, a self-important jackbutt that the president liked but failed utterly as a salesperson, calls me into his office to discuss my attitude. I'm extremely professional at work and took the beating. VP knew the situation but took John's side and ordered me to improve the situation in some way. Do something, anything, to enable the success of the intern. Make sacrifices if you have to. Fine. I had an off-brand computer case in my office that was gathering dust. It was there when I started, and I had no idea where it came from. Over the weekend, I transplanted everything in the intern's workstation to that computer case. Since it was coming from a Dell workstation, I had to remove all the slides and parts that make the thing easy to service, but I made it fit. It was a rush job and a monstrosity, but I got to bill time for it. I had to fashion a metal shim to cover the holes that the mainboard didn't extend to, but it worked. Same insides. Oh, and because it was such a mess, I had to leave a stick of RAM out since it wouldn't fit. Oh, and I accidentally dropped the processor that I didn't need to remove and had to put in another processor from another machine that was slightly slower. Carefully removed the Windows sticker from the old case and put it on the new case too. Got into work early on Monday and plugged it in. A few hours later, I got called down to John's office and figured I was in for it. The thing was even crappier than before, but in a different, not better container. Intern was beaming. John was beaming. VP was beaming. They thanked me for my hard work and gave me a $5 gift card to a coffee shop. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called ThunderThighs94. It says, "It's people like that intern and mentor and VP that make it harder for the ones that actually need and would take full advantage of the upgrades. But it is definitely fun to Frankenstein a better workspace from hand-me-downs." I feel like in tech support, there's a lot of cases where you can just polish something to make it seem like it's better. It's a perceived thing where I have this brand new case, and even though it's not going as fast, I don't realize that because, look at this, it's a brand new case, it's gotta be better. I've heard stories like this one before where they took the new facelifted front plate from a computer and took it off and put it onto the older computer, didn't change anything inside, and the user was so happy because, oh my gosh, it's working so much better now, it's so much faster, thank you so much. This story comes to us from JohnWick1089. How I became the pettiest customer in a jockey showroom. One fine day, my mom and I set off for what was supposed to be a quick supermarket run, which if you have an Indian mom, you know is never actually quick. We usually park right in front for an easy escape, but that day the parking lot was packed. So I found a spot a little further away and parked. And that's when he appeared. Like a parking ninja with a personal vendetta, a jockey showroom employee materialized and declared, "No parking here." Huh? I looked around. That's when I realized I had parked in front of a jockey showroom, which is beside the supermarket. But hold on, I wasn't just going to take this guy's word for it. I circled my car like a CSI investigator, inspecting every detail. The findings? My car was behind the shop boundary. I wasn't blocking the entrance. The giant jockey hoarding, featuring some awkwardly muscular guy in briefs, was fully visible from the road. No parking signs anywhere. In short, my parking job was innocent until proven guilty. But this guy, he was determined to make me guilty anyway. No parking here. There's no sign that says I can't park here. You still can't park here. I'm not blocking anything. No parking. I'm outside your showroom boundary. No parking. At this point, I realized this quarrel could last a while. So I turned to my mom and said, "You go ahead and shop, I'll deal with this." She, being the smart woman she is, walked off to the supermarket while I prepared for battle. After a few more rounds of pointless verbal combat, I had an idea. A genius, petty, time-wasting idea. "Can your customers park here?" He pauses. "Yes." "Congratulations, I'm a customer now." And with that, I marched into the jockey showroom with the confidence of a man who had absolutely no intention of buying anything. I started slow. "Show me a brief." He brought one out. Do you have this in blue?" He sighed and fetched a blue one. "Actually, maybe black is better." Another sigh, another trip to the shelf. 5 minutes in, I could feel his soul leaving his body, but I wasn't done. "I don't think I like these. Show me some vests." More running around, more wasted time. I studied each piece like I was choosing my wedding outfit, not underwear. Just as I was about to move on to socks, my mom called. "Where are you? I'm done shopping." Mission accomplished. I turned to the exhausted shopkeeper, flashed my most polite smile and said, "I don't think I need anything today." Then I walked out like I had just won the war. As I got into my car, I stole one last glance at him. He was standing there, staring at me, his eyes filled with rage, regret, and the haunting realization that he had wasted 10 minutes of his life for absolutely nothing. But the best part, a month later, I passed by the same spot and saw a different car parked in the exact same place. And there was no customer inside the jockey showroom. That's when I knew he had learned his lesson. Moral of the story, if you mess with a man's parking, be prepared to sell underwear to the most indecisive customer in history. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called DJA Cobb 205. It says, "I will respect signage specifying a specific store, but if it is a shared parking lot, as long as I am shopping in that shopping center, I am legally parked. I would have told that guy to get stuffed, but I like your method better." Another commenter down below called Gwen Beth said, "It's not just Indian moms. I'm from the southern US and my mom is exactly the same way. The real question is, did your mom expect you to carry in all the groceries when y'all got home, like my mom does?" Okay, I feel this. Every time my wife goes to a store like Walmart, she has a list of things she needs to get, but she has to look at every single thing that's on the shelf in that store. That trip takes 3 times longer than it really needs to. Then, when I go into the store on my own to get something, it's in the door, straight up to the aisle where the thing I need is, grab the thing I need, turn around, walk back to the checkout, pay for it, and leave. Why is it so different? But, I guess she can do whatever she wants to do. I just don't go with her. This story comes to us from Shieldtown 95. "You can't have a phone until your brother needs a new phone." This one is short and sweet. This happened about 20 years ago. I desperately wanted a cell phone. I did not have one at the time. In a family of 4, my older brother had our sole cell phone line at the time. He needed it more for some reason. My parents had an arbitrary rule. I couldn't have a phone until my brother needed a new phone. I'm not sure if there was a deal at the time, like get 2 lines or a family plan and save some money, but that was the rule. My brother's phone was perfectly fine until I broke it. Got my Nokia phone soon afterwards. Opie added an edit down at the bottom. It says, "Edit because so many people have asked this question. I slammed the phone vertically, antenna up, on the garage cement floor. It managed to break the parts that held the battery in place. Technically, the phone still worked if you held the battery in place, but the battery would slip out if you didn't. With some tape, it could have still functioned, but the damage and annoyance was just enough to justify a new phone." I completely thought of this one the wrong way because I was assuming when they said that when the brother gets a new phone, OP would get a phone, I was kind of thinking that the one from the brother was going to get passed down to OP, but that's obviously not the case. So they had to buy brother a new phone because it was broken, and then they also bought one for OP. Is there something here I'm not understanding? Let me know in the comment section down below, or if you're on Spotify, you can comment there as well. If you enjoy daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and add us to your favorites on whichever podcasting platform you enjoy the most. And if you're watching and listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Nom.